So, hello Habib, welcome to Talkietive Tete-a-tete.
Hi.
Hi. It's great to have you on this show that we do. You always pick your subjects which with a lot of care and which are very different, whether it's your movies, Ishaqzaade or Dooni Chaar, so many films that have had very different carry band, and now there's Home. What is it? What is your criteria for picking these subjects?
There's no one criterion. In this specific case, when the Balaji team contacted me, they told me one line, which was, it's a residential Mumbai middle class family society's fight to protect their homes when they get to know that they are illegal and orders are passed to demolish them. So that one line itself has several triggers. One is middle class. I have a weakness for middle class stories. Second was Mumbai. I haven't done anything set in Mumbai. So that challenge was very exciting. All my other work has been based in North. Then secondly, being a residential society, that would mean that I would be able to create an ensemble of characters. And there is a very clear journey. There is a fight of a group of people against a faceless system. And the issue of housing is very, very important. It doesn't get addressed often in film narratives or television narratives. I mean, we've had some films, whether it is Khosla or there have been films in the past, Gharonda, Mohan Joshi, Hazir Ho, dealt with housing and legal system. All these triggers, I happily said yes, let's do it.
Having been a film director and writer, what is the challenge for you when you have to tackle a web series? Because that's episodic and it gives you a lot of luxury of time, but at the same time it's challenging in a different way.
My discovery has been that a feature film is like a comic book. And a web series is like a novel. And both of them require good stories and both of them require their craft. So to be able to tell a story in a comic book format, which is short, thin, but in a comic book, the way you tell a story is that you're going from one event to another event to another event, and it's all plot based. So it's all one bit of action after the other. But in a novel, you can take your time to explore different layers, multiple layers, the nuances. Of course, both of them have to be equally engaging. Except that a novel is with somebody spent some money, so you make sure that you start and finish it. But in the case of a web series, if it is not good enough, then people will switch off in 2 minutes, not more than that. So that's a challenge to engage the audiences and sustain that interest over the length here is almost more than two feature film lengths. And that was the apprehension, but then doing new things is always exciting. And actually world over people are struggling with this.
The different mediums and what they bring, allow you to bring to the table.
And especially with web spaces, like when they say started with a Narcos or a Breaking Bad, a Narcos formula will not always apply on everything. So every show with a voiceover will not be a hit. Or every show with two parallel tracks of a cat and mouse game will not be a hit. So shows are getting made and world over, even in India, and people are exploring and learning on the way. And that is what happened in my case as well. And the biggest learning has been, of course, a web series does not have the same budgets as a film does. But then Hitchcock said that best things happen out of adversity. And in filmmaking, we take it for granted that big and huge is going to be cinematic.
Yes.
And in a web space, you realize that, the smallest detail can be very, very cinematic. Good thing, say the difference between television and web is that television viewing happens almost with a television in the background.
Correct. You do your thing.
You don't literally watch it.
Absolutely.
You are eating your dinner, you're having a conversation, you're playing Scrabble cards, having drinks.
It's like the guy who plays music in the hotel lobby.
Right. Yeah. Not as bad as that.
Yeah, not as indifferent. But
yeah, but so because of that, television's grammar is largely driven by dialogue.
Right.
It doesn't allow you to be very cinematic. And that is world over.
Because you can pick up from wherever you left off.
You're right.
Yeah. It's not moved that much, so correct. You haven't missed much.
So even the best of television, Turkish television, Pakistani plays when they used to be great.
Right.
They are all dialogue driven.
Absolutely.
But the web show is by appointment.
Yes.
You watch it if you want to watch it. And if you don't like it, you switch it off in 2 minutes flat. So, but that once you have hooked in and brought in the people, then that allows you to be cinematic. It allows you to, and it unlike a film pace where you need to really go at a reckless, not reckless but relentless pace of engaging.
Right.
In the case of a web series, you can take your time. You can take your time to explore, and of course, you still need to engage.
The story is supposed to be, so I read, inspired by the Campa Cola residents who were evicted.
Correct.
And what drew you to this story? Again, middle class milieu. I know you already said that you enjoy that milieu.
See, the story has not been written by me, and that's a first for me. That's another reason that I wanted to do this.
You wanted to do this.
This is the first time I'm directing something which I have not written myself.
Right.
So the core issue of the Campa Cola Society case was that you could be living in a place for 22 years and then you suddenly get to know that there are illegalities. And it's not because you have done anything.
Right.
The bizarrest thing about the Campa Cola Society case is that these people have paid property taxes.
Right. And they're supposed to be illegal. Correct.
If it is illegal, then why was their property tax being charged?
Right. And being acknowledged.
Yeah. And for some 22, 24, I don't remember the exact number of years, so they are paying property taxes and they're getting receipts, which means that this is something legal. Only against that you can charge property taxes. Municipal corporation is providing them water. The electricity department is providing them electricity. So obviously some big faceless system and its laws start kicking in at some point. And the thing is that a home is not just a makan. It's not just walls. Over 22, 24, 25 years, there are relationships, memories, people die, they get born, marriages happen, your kids grow up, their puberty happen, their first pornography that they watch, the first cigarette that they smoke, the first fight that you had with your parents, and likewise kids leave and they come back and they go off to study, and it's just it's a garden of memories.
True. And
then suddenly that has to be taken away. So, and that hasn't happened only in Campa Cola Society case.
Right.
All over India, several have happened. And for the system, for this faceless system, these are numbers. They are files.
Yeah.
They're not bothered about individuals with individual narratives.
True.
They don't care.
Yeah.
So one group of people, and the bizarre thing was, say in Campa Cola Society case, and which is what is happening in a narrative also, there was permission given to make X number of floors,
right,
and the builder makes Y number of floors. So the X number of floors are actually legal,
right,
and X plus Y is what is illegal,
right.
And then the order is passed that it's not like a brick of butter that you're going to slice off the top and the rest is going to survive. So at one level, it is so ridiculous that you cannot even imagine that something like this can happen.
Right.
Every time you and I, we save our hard-earned money, we buy a house, we feel so scared. When we go buy a cell phone or something,
right,
then we go with a certain attitude into the shop. I've got this much money, give me this phone.
Yeah.
You know, when you go to buy a house, it feels like you're going begging.
Right.
You're going begging from a system.
Yeah.
Please give me a house. And you are paying. This is your hard-earned money, and why should that be the case?
True.
You should have the right. You have paid the money, you have paid the taxes, you have done everything right. And actually the system forces us not to be doing things right.
Correctly, yes.
Everybody cannot afford houses in these superstar branded societies. I'm not taking names.
Sure.
But they are the only ones who allow you to buy a flat, apartment with white money.
Right.
A regular person goes to some XYZ builder, and even now, even after demonetization, even after so much talk about black money will go away and XYZ, you go to buy a house and you are told 60% black, 40% white. Now you and I, we get our salaries through direct transfers.
Correct.
All our monies are always above board.
True.
We are forced to learn ways to turn that white money into black money.
Correct.
And we end up becoming criminals, and we are forced to become criminals.
Yeah.
That is at the level of those who can afford to buy a house.
True.
But then throughout the country, there are so many people who are living on the streets. According to me, housing should be a fundamental right, like fundamental education is a fundamental right.
Yeah.
Housing ought to be, it's criminal that such a huge number of people, they just spend their lives on pavements.
True.
And so there is all of this which was important to talk about and deal with, and I hope we have, because the issue is bigger than all of us individuals.
Sure.
It's not about what Neeraj has written, what Ekta has thought, how Anu Kapoor has acted, how Supriya Pilgaonkar has, Amol, Chetna, Parikshit Sani, what Habib has done. I hope we have done justice.
Everyone who comes to Mumbai has their own Mumbai story, you know, their own version of the city. What is your Mumbai story?
The very first story was I moved to Mumbai to do a television show. And so with me, Shaila, my wife, Afshin, my daughter, they also moved in. And we were coming from a house,
right,
not an apartment. We used to live in Noida. And so where we were living was a house where you would walk in and there would be a drawing room.
Right.
And then there would be a dining room, and there would be a living room, and then there would be bedrooms. And so when we moved to Mumbai,
right,
we walked into this apartment in a building which is supposed to be a very posh building in Lokhandwala, Tarapur Towers. And my daughter was some 6-7 years old, so she very excitedly ran in, and the house had gotten over. It had just gotten over.
The BHKs had ended.
Yeah, so there wasn't a drawing room, a dining room. It was, but at the same time, one thing that had always excited me about coming to a residential space in Mumbai was the way it's quite a job to manage a house.
Space. Yes.
No, say a house like where we were living in Delhi, it's quite a job managing a space like that, a big space.
Big space.
The compactness of an apartment was so charming.
Right.
And people are so inventive in using that space.
Right.
The first time that I saw a dining table which would become a sideboard, and then on the hinges it'll be folded and then a leg will come out, was only in the city.
Yes.
And that was very, very amusing and exciting. So one has learned to value space, which is also very important. So the flip side of the good side is that you need to learn to value space, and you need to be inventive about using that space.
True. In fact, I think Mumbai is one of the few cities where I've seen like slim fit apartments.
Absolutely.
I was like, this concept can only happen in Mumbai. Most of your stories so far in the movies have been set in the northern milieu.
Right.
However, this is a Bombay story. So how did you address or approach the authenticity part of it? Because that really brings alive the flavor of the story and, makes it come alive. How did you approach that?
I've lived for good 16 years in Mumbai. I've experienced the whole dynamics of a residential complex. Every society has a management committee, and the members are very colorful.
Right.
You have to be a very colorful person to volunteer, because these are all voluntary positions.
True.
And people contest elections, and they're very passionate about it when they contest. So another reason which got me very excited was that my experience with all the residential societies and the AGMs and SGMs and management committees has been that in some sense it's a microcosm of the Indian political system.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not talking about party politics,
right,
but the Indian democracy.
Right.
It really operates at that micro level.
At that level.
And without getting into party politics, you can still be addressing and exploring Indian political milieu and climate,
right,
through these management committee meetings. So that was something very exciting.
Right. Sounds really promising, and thanks so much for joining us, and all the best.
Thank you.